be a head coach in Minnesota next year.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I think Dan Quinn's going to be the head coach in Denver next year. I think if the Bears are smart, they just go to Brian Flores right now. I think the Jags should grab up Byron Leftwich. I think the Buccaneers... prediction, the Buccaneers are going to be getting a new head coach going into next season. This stuff with Antonio Brown that's being investigated, Bruce Arians is going to get fired.
We'll see. I don't trust Antonio Brown's account of events because he's proven to be a liar about stuff that happens.
And he's shown.
Don't get me wrong.
He's shown texts and stuff from his doctor saying he wasn't ready, and Bruce Arians forced him to get back on the field.
Well, according to Arians, he said basically like you're done for the game, not that you're done as a Buck. And then Antonio Brown just went bananas. No, coaches definitely push players to play hurt, and it's not good for the players, obviously, for long term. And I especially would not encourage a player with an injury like that, especially when you're stars, to be playing against a team that you realistically should be able to beat. Let's look at the Jets versus the Buccaneers this season. They should have our number. Like, that shouldn't have even been a close game with or without Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
So, we'll definitely see if more stuff comes out about Arians, then I could see it happening. But also, if the Bucs do well and push far into playoffs, and especially if they go to the Super Bowl or win it, he's not getting fired.
Well,
the fan base and the ownership will readily forgive him pushing players if he promises not to do it again and is winning.
Here's my prediction. Bruce Arians gets fired over all this, and Todd Bowles becomes the new head coach with a team ready to succeed.
Another shot. He had his struggles, but he also had McCagnon and what's his name before that, who were bad GMs. I think he's probably deserving of another shot at a head coaching position. He's obviously a brilliant defensive mind. He's just got to figure out more the offensive side, and I'm sure he's taken that to heart. So
yeah, I mean, if my prediction does come true, he's going to step into a team that, regardless of coach, is Super Bowl ready. So
and trusts him and likes him.
Yeah.
And that's big. Like, look at the Raiders. Their backup coach, stepped in, and they're a playoff team, even with a ton of things going on.
Good old Rich Bisaccia.
Ruggs being a fucking idiot and killing a person because he wanted to drive drunk.
And then Damon Arnett driving drunk.
Yep. But, props to their... quote unquote temporary coach. I think he deserves a shot at the head coaching vacancy, at least for one more season.
I think so too.
Be able to bring them to playoffs still.
And there are a bunch of players on the Cowboys who will admit, and they will tell you 100% that they love the coaches that they've worked under, but Rich Bisaccia is the favorite coach that they've ever had. So.
Oh, that's high praise.
Yeah, you're talking about a lot of the big-time Cowboys players. Yep. They loved him. Hated to see him go. But speaking of go, we've got to take our break. On the other side, we're going to talk about the 2021 NFL playoff matchups. You're definitely not going to want to miss this. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just about 1 minute. And welcome back to the second half of Dan D'Antoni Sports. Guys, we talked about some not free agents, some head coaching changes. We talked about mobile betting. What do you say we get into the meat and potatoes? We get into the NFL playoffs. All right. First of all, I just want to talk about that that Brandon Staley timeout literally costing his team a shot at the playoffs. The Raiders were in no hurry to get a playoff. Oh, man. Staley said we didn't feel like we had the right personnel out. The right personnel for what? Derek Carr was standing looking at the sideline. Like, what personnel do you need for them to just run 2 yards up the middle and then just run the rest of the game out? You can tell they took that personal, and then they're like, all right, we're just going to win it.
Yep.
Oh, my God. That game, I stayed up until 1 o'clock watching that game, definitely hoping that I would see a tie, and that keeps the Steelers out of the playoffs. And no offense to the Steelers, it didn't matter who it was, as long as it wasn't the Cowboys. I wanted to see a tie to keep a team out of the playoffs, especially a team that tied the Lions. They couldn't even beat the Lions. Sad.
You remember, I called that almost, saying that the Lions were going to win that game. But...
Yep. Man, that was nuts. Anyways, we do have the NFL playoffs coming up Saturday, 4:30 p.m. We got the Raiders and the Bengals. Both teams 10-7. Raiders, started the season pretty hot, cooled off a little bit, finished fairly strong. Bengals had a few laughable games, but they finished the season strong behind Jamar Chase, just going all out nuts. And Scott, our friend of the podcast, Scott Grimes, won our fantasy football league almost solely because of Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase had 269 receiving yards for him.
Yeah, that was just unbelievable.
Yep, crazy.
Crazy. 60 points.
Yep. Insane. On paper, this game looks like the Bengals should beat them. However, I do know that Joe Burrow has a tendency to hold on to the ball for a long time, and that's something that seems like he's developed fairly late in the season. Maybe it's because he's waiting for Jamar Chase to get open more so now than he used to wait. But Max Crosby has just been a goddamn monster all season. So that's a matchup I'm looking forward to, seeing Max Crosby against that Bengals offensive line, and if they can keep Joe Burrow upright. Of course.
That'd be a good name for a movie, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Max Crosby, goddamn monster.
Yep. That would. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, it would. But the big question is going to be, can the Raiders secondary keep up with T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase? Now they've got Auden Tate back if they need to run a 4 wide receiver set. Joe Mixon. Can that Raiders defense, especially the back 4 or 5, can they keep pace with the offensive firepower that the Bengals have? What do you guys think?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be a pretty offensive game. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring. Because I don't really trust the Bengals defense either, but I think ultimately the Bengals are going to come out on top. They got hot at the right time. Jamar Chase is proving himself to be worth that draft pick after all, and Joe Burrow's kind of looking back to himself again after that horrible injury that he suffered. I think it's gonna be a really fun game. But yeah, my bet's on the Bengals.
I'm gonna say something similar to that. I'm gonna say yes, it's gonna be high scoring, but I'm gonna give the edge to the Raiders with Derek Carr with a little bit more experience, and just the fact that they got pretty core offense with Hunter Renfrow, Waller, and Josh Jacobs.
Actually,
that would be Waller coming back would be a huge boon for them.
Actually, you say that Derek Carr has the experience. Derek Carr and Joe Burrow both have the same amount of playoff games started, and that is 0.
Right, but
Derek Carr's in like his 8th year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it comes down to one thing, and that is, who do I trust more? The guy that I've seen play very well for a season, or a guy that I've seen have a few seasons of playing very well? I'm going to take the guy that I've seen play well for a few seasons, and that is Derek Carr. Also, if it comes down to a field goal, I'm trusting Carlson more than I trust, what's his name? McPhee. If it comes down to a field goal game, I'm taking Carlson every time.
I don't think the Bengals are going to be trying to kick many field goals. I think you'll see them go for it more than most teams.
Oh, I'm talking about
that travesty of a game against
the Vikings,
the Packers.
Oh yeah, the bad against the Vikings, bad against the Jets. They've had a few bad games, but yeah, I'm going to trust Derek Carr a little bit more, especially because Darren Waller is just Darren Waller. It's a toss-up for me. I do think it comes down to a 2 to 3 point game, honestly. I really do. I think it's going to be a high-scoring 2 to 3 point game. But I think it's going to be a 2 to 3 point game. But let's move on. Oh, sorry, go on.
Might even go to overtime, maybe.
Potentially. There's no ties in the playoffs, though, so don't even think about it.
Like Hunter Renfrow had over 100 catches this season.
Hunter Renfrow had 103 for 1,038 yards.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's move on to the next game. Dan Beebe, we got the Patriots at the Bills. Patriots at one point were the number 1 seed in the AFC. They've looked very good in many games. They've looked pretty bad in a few as well. It's the series is split from this season. The Patriots took the first one. The Bills took the second one. This is a tough one for me to pick as well.
I love division matchups in the playoffs. I love it, especially when their regular season they went 1-1 against each other. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
If there's 60-mile-per-hour winds, New England, because that was what the result of the Monday night game.
Yeah, it was very snowy. It was very gross. But I don't think the Patriots can win another game